What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Making Podcasts Great Again. I am your tech stuff guy, Jay Nog, and I know everyone was expecting Vice President Pence on tonight's episode, and our president is so strong and powerful that he just beat COVID in hours over a weekend. So he's here with us tonight. I'm going to introduce him in a second, but let me just say that you can talk to the vice president on Wednesday night. We're going to have the vice president post-debate Q&A. It's going to be for all patrons, okay? So if you are a Patreon patriot, we're going to send out the Zoom with the first 98 patriots to come on, those who can watch the show live, but it'll be available to every Patreon the next day. And it will be up for all the patriots. So get on the Patreon. It's the bonus episode this month. And patreon.com/MPGA. Sorry, Mr. President, just wanted to, people were expecting our vice president, our strong, powerful president, President Trump. How are you feeling tonight?
Okay, well, I can say I feel so strongly that I have confidence to say this is the last episode you'll ever do. First and last, because you spent, I don't know how long that was, explaining the vice president, who didn't just defeat COVID, who's not the president, making this long apology while I'm waiting here, having just crushed COVID. I just beat the shit out of, I took COVID and I beat it to death. And, you know, you're here talking about big game Mike Pence, who will be great. Mike Pence is going to totally crush Koala Bear Harris in the VP debate. He's doing the Patreon Patriot. He was sort of struggling with that. The Patreon Patriots, all levels will be able to hear that episode. He'll be with you. I'm allowing him to do a strong one-on-one with you with the Q&A. And not QAnon, though. Not QAnon. We love QAnon, but not with that. And there'll be a pre-show at youtube.com/Trump, the internet. Mike Pence doing an hour-long Q&A right before the debate. So to Trump, the way I did last debate, he'll be there talking to the people, taking questions. So subscribe to, get a Patreon, subscribe to the YouTube, Trump the internet. And that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So maybe on your next podcast job, you can do a stronger job.
You make me nervous, Mr. President. I was trying to get through the announcement so quickly. People were expecting the vice president, and then I saw you staring at me, and I know I had
You know what this is?
Excuse
me. You know what this is? This is somebody saying, I was so nervous because I won $500,000 and I didn't want to talk to the $10 million. So I was so nervous that I spent all my time on $500,000. And then I got fired by the $10 billion president. So congratulations, great decision, tech stuff, people.
Well, Mr. President, you tested positive for COVID last week, not even a week ago. You were admitted to Walter Reed, and you were out in
I think it was
3
Amy
days?
Coney Barrett's Haitian kid.
What?
She's got 2 Haitian kids. They don't like me. They're from a shithole. And they sat there. And I think, as you could see, there were like 400 people. I think there was only one other person of color at our whole event. So, and that person was not Haitian. So I think we're looking into it strongly. I think Amy Coney Barrett's 2 Haitian kids smuggled COVID into our great announcement because they don't like their president.
Mr. President.
And I told Coney Barrett, I said to her, Coney Barrett, I said, will you take this Supreme Court position if, as part of the deal, I have to deport your 2 adopted Haitian kids? And she said, sir, yes, sir, I will do it. And that's when I knew I had a great justice.
Mr. President, I don't think her kids would bring COVID to hurt you.
Excuse me, were you there?
I wasn't there, but Mr. President, you have not been wearing a mask everywhere you go. You're around people who have been infected with COVID. You have gotten away without being affected for a long time. It's if you are reckless and not wear a mask wherever you go and around so many people, it's bound to happen to get COVID. And I mean, did you learn your lesson?
Could you repeat the question? I was breathing totally normally.
How are you feeling?
So for like, I feel. Let me tell you something. I haven't felt this. I feel so powerful right now. Like I feel like I could do one of my early '90s rapes. I have that much energy.
You have early 90s rape energy?
Big rape energy. That's what I've got.
Wow, I didn't think COVID would make you so lively. How is your wife feeling? How's Melania feeling? Is she feeling as strong and powerful as you are?
Oh,
Your wife, you both tested positive, along with a bunch of other people we'll talk about in a
oh,
minute.
she actually no. She tested positive for gonorrhea. She didn't. That was a total hoax. That was a press. We told the press that, but I told you for campaign funds, she started up an OnlyFans and was doing some escort work to raise money. Like some billionaires will. We call it the Melania Super PAC. Okay.
Okay.
Pussy ass class. That's what it used to stand for Political Action Committee, but with hers, it's pussy ass class. And you should see what some of these billionaires, especially the foreign ones, they're not like American billionaires. They will fly her out for one night, and all of a sudden, the super PAC has $50 million in it. So she's been doing great work, but it's dangerous work, okay? Because a lot of these rich people, they don't want the condoms. So mesothelioma is putting herself at risk.
So
But
what you're
it's for great love of country and for the campaign funds.
so what you're telling me is that you tested positive for COVID, and then she tested positive for gonorrhea. She is not COVID positive. Is that what you're telling me?
Okay, that was a code also. She tested positive for a pregnancy from a guy in United Arab Emirates. So it wasn't actually an STD; it was a pregnancy. And because we're pro-life, we like to call it something else, and I'll leave it at that.
Did you
But
lose?
she's raised tremendous funds. She's raised tremendous funds for the campaign. So I feel very strong. Jill Biden was cute in her day,
Right.
but there's no billionaires from the Middle East flying Jill Biden out for a bukkake show.
Of course not. Now,
That's what you don't want that in a first lady. If you can't have a first lady that billionaire black market people don't want to fly out for special shows. Who wants that? Who wants a first lady that isn't in demand like that?
well, people are very confused because everyone thinks that she tested positive for COVID. So that's news to
No,
everyone.
COVID was the name she gave the fetus until I told her to get rid of it.
Right? That's odd. Did you lose your taste, Mr. President?
I
Sense
never
of
had any
taste.
taste. Have you seen Trump Tower?
But did you lose your sense of taste? Like, were you able to taste your egg McMuffin and all the McDonald's? Were you able to
Well,
taste?
unfortunately, I felt like I may have lost a little bit of taste, but that's why I've doubled up in terms of the McDonald's that I'm eating. So take two Big Macs. So by the second Big Mac, the taste buds are activated.
Is that how you think taste buds work? The more you eat something, the more the taste buds will interact with each other.
I activate them. They're a little dull from the COVID, and then I eat a double Big Mac, and all of a sudden it goes.
You activate your own taste buds. That's amazing. Are you okay, Mr. President? Are you
Totally,
okay?
totally strong. Why? Why do you ask?
I just heard you had a very deep breath, so I just
No, I have a new microphone apparently that just sort of picks up. It's a very expensive microphone, so it picks up sort of higher
okay.
sensitivities to my powerful breath.
Are you okay, Mr. President? That was a very deep breath.
Totally okay. So okay. So powerfully okay and strong.
So this it's normal, this breathing.
I would say it's even stronger than normal. It's because I'm on these. They gave me steroids, so watch out. Don't mess with me. I'll kick your ass. And they gave me steroids and a lot of drugs, and It's no side effects. I mean, I had a great conversation with Herman Cain this afternoon, but there's been, they have a lot of side effects, but there's no side effects for me. It's all we call it strong effects. We call it strong effects. The great Fred Trump told me this morning. He said, "Sir," my father called me sir.
Yes, what did he tell you?
He said, "Sir, get out of this hospital, sir. You don't need any more of this bullshit." He used that word, but he said, "Sir," so I let him do it.
Wow.
And after talking to Herman Cain and the great Fred Trump, I left very powerfully, and I think you can see it. I'm at the White House right now. We're getting back to the people's business. Okay.
That's amazing that you had Herman Cain and Fred Trump came to visit you and motivate you to get out of bed.
The great Fred Trump.
The great.
We have a great fan, the leader of our Patreon Patriots. He always calls him the great Fred Trump, and that's one of the reasons why he's the leader of our Patreon Patriots.
He is a good guy. So, Mr. President,
I haven't called people good guy in a while. I think we need to. And you know what? We messed up, and I blame Big Gay Mike Pence. And when I say we messed up, I mean you messed up.
Okay.
It was supposed to be Big Gay Mike Pence night on the podcast,
yes.
And he was very excited. He was oiled up, and
he was oiled up for a podcast.
Remember, he's ready for the Holy Spirit. He's always ready to be entered by the Holy Spirit. But what I'm telling you is, it's the first episode of the month, but I let Pence take it, which means we were supposed to get questions from the fans. Now, I guess they didn't know because they didn't know how powerfully I would respond and get out of the hospital so quick. So next week, we'll do the post. We'll do the post for fan questions.
Your health, Mr. President. I really didn't want to put anything more. Are you okay, Mr. President?
If you ask that one more time, we're going to end the show.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I have never been more fine in my entire life.
It's a great new microphone you have there.
Well, it's the best. It's from Trump Audio, a new company we're starting. Trump Audio. No boom boxes for blacks. That's the catchphrase.
It's an interesting catchphrase. Who's on the marketing team who decided that, Mr. President? It's a pretty interesting slogan for a company. Trump Audio, no boom boxes for blacks. You don't think would dissuade, like black people from buying any of your products?
We're going for a certain market. We're going for the MAGA market. We love African Americans, but boom boxes for blacks, we don't have them.
So you're feeling well. You didn't lose your sense of taste. You said you had to activate your taste buds. How was your sense of smell? Smell fine?
Smell, I think it's the same. I mean, I took off when I removed my Depends. There was, 2 days.
2 days of smell.
2 days.
Mr. President, are you getting emotional over getting over COVID? I mean,
I get a little emotional. Remember Captain Phillips? Remember we had the guy who wrote Captain Phillips? At the end of Captain Phillips when he was crying?
Yes.
Emotional. And that's how I felt when I took off my Depends. And I keep the Depends because of my potent maleness. Okay,
right.
To collect. It's not for the usual reason.
Right.
But I took those Depends off so quickly. And the smell might have been affected a little because I had 3 days worth of shit in my Depends. And
couldn't smell a thing.
I only smelled it when I removed the Depends, and I said, well, look at that.
Now, President, a lot of people, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people on social media were rejoicing when they heard that you caught COVID.
When I got healthy. I know. I saw the people outside Willis Reed Hospital, and they were so excited to see their president.
No, not outside the hospital. Like people online were wishing for your death. People were excited that you got COVID. There was a lot of happy memes. People were saying this is the best part of the pandemic. A lot of people were thrilled that you got sick. And how do you feel about that? Because a lot of your supporters wanted sympathy and empathy, but you're not that kind of guy. Did you want that, or did you want people wishing you bad and you to fight through it?
First off, I have probably the most powerful sympathy of anybody. Nobody has more. I think people sometimes miss the amount of sympathy I have because it's so strong. Like you don't realize the earth is moving. You ever heard this in science? The earth is moving very fast, but we don't realize it because it's so big. When it's spinning and when it's rotating.
Yeah, with gravity, there's a lot of things that have to do with it. Yeah.
We don't feel that though. It's not like we're
No.
getting dizzy. And maybe you get dizzy, but I don't get dizzy.
No.
And it's the same thing with my sort of sympathy. It's so strong. People actually miss it because it's so powerful. It's like an overall force. It's so strong. So no, I have great sympathy, and I think it's a disgrace. But as a Christian, I'm not going to say anything nasty about the people who said very disgraceful things about me. So I will say to those people, fuck you. I hope you get COVID with AIDS and choke on it. As a Christian, I say that as a very sort of, generous and forgiving Christian. I say it.
Okay. But Mr. President, you really think you're a sympathetic man? You make fun of people when bad things are happening to them. That's not sympathy. That's the opposite of sympathy.
No, you just don't understand Trump sympathy. We call it Trumpathy. And you obviously don't understand it.
Can you explain Trumpathy to me?
Believe me, it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
I'd like to hear about it.
Trumpathy is basically when just by being around, by sheer force of your great power, your great wealth, your great talent, that it represents, some people who are weak and don't have talent have to say, oh, I feel bad for you, or here's some flowers, here's a card, here's, let me tickle your asshole, you're feeling bad. All sorts of things that, that people have to do when they don't sort of look powerfully sympathetic. Trumpathy basically means if I'm even talking to you, looking at you, listening to you, spending any time near you, I'm so powerful, my force is so strong. You're getting it's like the sun. It's like when you turn on the lights in your house because it's dark, that's one type of light. That's sort of the regular person's sympathy. I'm like the sun. If you have the sun, it shines everywhere. It's so powerful. Nobody says turn on the lights when the sun is out. You just say, my God, the sun. And that's Trumpathy is just sort of like the sun type energy. It's very, as you can imagine, it's very powerful.
Trumpathy is very powerful. And that brings us to another powerful sponsor this week, Mr. President. And that is our sponsor.
And then, by the way, you talk about how lucky are they to be at the comeback episode for the president?
Extremely lucky. I mean, just as powerful as you, betonline.ag. The wait is finally over. We are in week 4. Football is back. Mr. President, did you watch any of the games this weekend? People are getting COVID. Games are being delayed. Did you see any of that?
I don't know if you know this. I was too busy in the hospital beating the shit out of COVID. COVID actually said to me, sir, please stop. I can't take it anymore. And I said, no way, COVID. We're going to beat you to death.
Well, you
COVID
may not.
Called me sir. COVID called me sir.
That's amazing. You may not be at a game this year, but you can still be in on the action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on everything imaginable this season, from game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props. BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online. I do all my betting on BetOnline. There are new wagers, actually, Mr. President, for for the elections. It is almost a dead even heat. You are not favored at all. I think you are the underdog, maybe almost now. Even Pence too. The odds are shifting because of COVID. So you might want to change the bet from last week. You said you might take Biden and then you'll win everything, you told our guest last week. But who knows? You have to look into it. But Bet Online, check it out, Mr. President. You get in on their season opening bonuses today. Start off a wagering to win division and championship futures today. There's every sport you can bet on now. We have baseball playoffs, basketball championship, hockey is done, but there's golf, there's UFC, there's football, so much to bet on.
Do they have bum fights?
I'm not sure of bum fights, but there's UFC, so that is sort of fighting, and there's boxing too. There's a casino as well. So head to Bet Online today, and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts, betonline.ag. Now, Mr. President, you said you beat the shit out of COVID. I'm going to quote you. You said COVID actually called you sir. Now, you had a parade. Now, a lot of people are saying this parade wasn't necessary. You were sending a bad message to your supporters, who most of them were outside celebrating you without a mask on as you pass by. And you weren't wearing a tie, which was very interesting. You weren't wearing a tie. You usually always wear a tie. And you had a mask on, and you passed by in your protective vehicle. What was the reason for it?
When the country is hurting, okay, mainly because of the fake news media, the great people who support me need to see that the fake news is wrong, that I'm not, somebody on my deathbed or something crazy like that, that I'm strong and that I am fully capable.
Are you okay?
Out there, you're officially fired. I will end this episode if you ask that again.
Okay.
And you have our great Secret Service, who, by the way, they were totally okay. Like, I coughed on one of them. Okay, it wasn't on purpose. But then the other one actually yelled at me. Now, he said, sir, but he said, sir, what the hell? So I spit in his face. Because you don't talk to you don't talk. When I was going on my drive, you saw it, and I waved to the people. Very nice. By the way, a lot stronger than Kennedy. Remember when Kennedy went driving?
Oh, God.
Okay, well, I'm saying he's Mr. O, the Kennedys. Well, I drove around Walter Reed and totally safe, and I was dealing with COVID. And I just, so the Secret Service, one of them, I accidentally, total accident, sneezed on. And before I could apologize, because, I wasn't going to apologize, I don't apologize. The other Secret Service looked at me and said, sir, what the hell? And then I said, excuse me, and spit in his face for being rude. So we'll see how they do. We're not having them quarantine. We don't want to do, we're doing no contact tracing, no quarantine. But everything should be fine. Look how strongly I've done. Look how strongly I've done.
Mr. President, there were reports out that Secret Service was not very happy with you. They said they cannot refuse any order by the president, so they had to do what you said.
Well, that's
why a few of them had to be quarantined. They weren't happy with what they're doing.
Excuse me. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
So glad you brought that up, because I've been thinking for a while about getting rid of the Secret Service because, they guarded Obama. I think they liked Obama. Okay. So what I want to do is, I've asked Pat Lynch of the Policemen's Bigotry Association in New York.
Yeah.
I said, Pat, you endorsed me. I want your 50 most racist cops to become my personal security detail. So we're looking into that right now, and probably in a second term, we're going to have, 50, maybe even 100 totally strong, totally blue lives, totally racist cops, protecting me. Because I can't trust the Secret Service. They're talking to fake news now. They're supposed to defend their president, and instead they're a bunch of, pathetic losers.
You want to defund the Secret Service and replace them with racist cops. Is that
No,
what
I
you
never
want?
said racist,
You
but
did.
with great, no, never said that, but with very strong police. I said very strong, very Blue Lives Matter police.
Now, Mr.
But
President, yes.
the more complaints, maybe you heard racist and thought I said complaints. I said complaints. The more complaints from black people, the higher they move up on the list.
Mr. President.
So if you have a guy who's about to be, fired from the police department because of 80 accusations, guess who's leading the Trump Protection Squad? TPS. We're calling it the TPS. And when they send things to me, they're called TPS reports.
The Trump Protection Squad?
Trump Protection Squad.
I don't know if that's such a good idea, Mr. President, hiring all officers who have complaints against them,
Who's going to do a better job protecting me than people who can't wait to attack anybody who approaches me that I don't like?
I guess you do have a point there. You want aggressive people, but you also want people who can think things out and not put you in danger, because maybe they attack someone and then you get hurt.
No, I don't think you realize it. I just beat the shit out of COVID. No, COVID actually said to me last night, COVID said, "Sir, please stop, sir." And I said, "No." And you know what I did to COVID?
What kind of voice does COVID have? Does COVID have like a very presidential?
I sodomized COVID.
Did you make COVID cry?
I went full prison rules on COVID.
Well, I'm glad that you.
Or that might have been a Filipino nurse. I don't know. It was either COVID or a young man from the Philippines.
Mr. President, a lot of people are infected with COVID in the White House, and it's because of.
Oh, you said that like it was another read for an ad.
Because I wish. Your spreader events. Your wife has been infected. She is positive for COVID.
That's what we called Hope Hicks birthday parties, spreader events.
Also, your Hope Hicks. We have your wife. We have Nicholas Lunis. Is that his name? We have Kayleigh McEnany, Mike Lee, Tom Tillis, Ron Johnson, Kellyanne Conway, Bill Stepien, Ronna McDaniel, Chris Christie, all these people.
It's a who's who of future dead Republicans.
Oh, shit.
And I'm telling you, Amy Coney Barrett, I think it's the Haitian kids.
You think it's her kids who brought COVID to your event?
We're looking into it. And she already agreed if we find out it was them, she is totally okay with us deporting them if she gets the seat on the Supreme Court.
Mr. President, all these people testing positive for COVID, you don't think that's reckless at all? What kind of message do you think that sends the American people?
Well, I wouldn't have made them test positive. I wouldn't have tested them.
But that would have been worse, and you would have had more people sick around you. It would have looked a lot worse than it already does.
No. That's totally wrong.
How am I wrong?
No, if we don't test, we've gone over this so many times. If I don't test,
I understand.
They don't find the case.
I know.
And then all of a sudden, Chris Christie just passes away from being extremely fat. But now that they test it, they're going to say, "Oh, Chris Christie." Herman Cain passed away from being, an old black, but everybody wants to call it COVID.
I thought he visited you in the hospital.
No, the ghost of Herman Cain.
Okay, the ghost visited you.
Or maybe it was. It did look like him. Fred Trump definitely visited me, though.
Now, Mr. President, all these people.
I got you. You were supposed to say the great Fred Trump.
I'm sorry, I forgot that it's the great Fred Trump every single time. But I'm just so confused that you don't think it's a problem that all these people surrounding you are infected with COVID, and then who knows, more infections can come out any day now of who's infected because the infection rate is like 1 to 4 days. So you don't know who
It's
they were
called
in
third
contact.
immunity. It's called third immunity, where we get a third of the country to get it, and we see what happens.
That seems smart. Third immunity, just
Well,
infect
thank
everyone
you.
and pray.
No,
It's
not
kind
everyone,
of
just a
roulette.
third. A third of the country.
Yeah, I don't think that makes sense.
No, it actually makes total sense.
Mr. President, if you had to lose one of these people who are infected, who would you be fine with leaving?
Tiffany.
She is not infected. I just went through the list. Tiffany is not
Oh, well,
infected.
I still stand by my answer of Tiffany.
There's no one else you could stand losing in this list.
Well, Kellyanne Conway is an underrated rack, so I want her to stay around because I think her and Chubby George are going to get divorced. And she's too old and has too many kids to be like Trump wife number 4, but she could be Trump's side piece for a week.
That's good.
So we definitely want to keep Kellyanne. Chris Christie, I kind of like the fact that Jared hates him. So I want him to stay around. But if I was betting on it with betonline.ag, I would have Chris Christie high in the death pool because he's a total fat slob. Who else?
You have Ronna McDaniel. You have Mike Lee.
Well, she's Mitt Romney's niece, so she can go. And who's stupid enough to give their niece a name like the same as a disease, Rona?
Yeah. It makes sense for her to go since her name
Yeah,
is
she can go. She can go. I
Okay.
respect the fact that she insulted her uncle for me in loyalty to me, but at the end of the day, I can't trust anybody that's related to Mitt Romney.
That microphone. Mr. President, I'm wondering how your children dealt with you getting COVID. How did Don Jr. handle it? How did Ivanka handle it? Did anyone come to see you in a hazmat suit, or did they Zoom to you or FaceTime? How did you speak to your children?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that over the
Oh, you can hear over the
powerful
microphone.
mic.
Okay, I'll
Powerful
say it
mic.
again. You're that microphone. It's good. I like what is it? No boom boxes for blacks. Trump audio. It's good. That's a good microphone. Now I was asking you about that microphone. Sounds kind of like a dinosaur from Jurassic Park. Wow, those are powerful lungs or a microphone. Now, Mr. President,
Jurassic Park, wasn't that a great movie?
it was a great movie. I like that movie a lot. Now, Mr. President. I'm not going to ask if you're okay, Mr. President. I'm just assuming it's the microphone acting up again.
Total microphone. Okay, so you had a question. Excuse me. I mean, what people don't want to hear silence. You know, it's total silence. You know, the mic. They're not hearing this.
Well,
total silence.
It wasn't total silence, but have you spoken?
Excuse me. It was total silence.
It was total silence. Have you spoken to Ivanka? Has she come to visit in a hazmat suit? Has she FaceTime, Zoom? Have you been in touch with her?
She is, as much as I knew I was going to defeat the COVID so strongly, I didn't want her to even have a 0.0001% chance of catching it.
Right.
So I told her to stay away. She texted me some topless photos, and we Zoomed. And but now I plan on seeing her as soon as I think I can, and I think I can see her very soon.
Who is watching Barron?
Oh,
Your son with Melania, I don't think he tested positive, but who is watching him since both his parents are infected with COVID?
Whoever his parents are, I guess that's a good question. Somebody should be watching him.
So is he just running around the White House right now,
Who?
unsupervised? Barron, your son.
Don Jr.?
No, Don Jr. is a grown adult. Barron, I think you sometimes say he looks like Kristaps Porzingis. You compare your son to sometimes. You compare your son to a lot of very tall white basketball players. Dirk Nowitzki, I think you've compared your son to.
You know what? We like the tall white basketball players, but I don't know. I don't know who Brendan is, but I hope wherever his parents are, I hope they're taking care of him.
Well, Mr. President, I want to talk to you. Wednesday is very big, I think, for you and your campaign. Your debate was, we've talked about it. It was a little out of hand.
Strong.
Very strong, a lot of interrupting, powerful, strong debate. Now, Vice President Pence will be debating Kamala Harris on Wednesday. Have you been able to prep Vice President Pence since you have been ill?
Big Game Mike Pence is one of the most prepared people I've ever met. I mean, the guy works almost 40 hours a week. He's a total workaholic. Very disciplined guy, very disciplined. And I think, and you see, he didn't even get COVID. He didn't even get COVID. So he's a very disciplined guy. He's a strong guy, great Christian. You know, it's almost like he has this power in him to sort of, like this mental strength, like to change himself just through sheer willpower. And it's impressive. It's impressive. So I think he's going to do, I would say, very powerfully against Kamala Harris. I think, you know, people think that just because she's a prosecutor, that she's going to take Mike Pence. People are going to be very surprised. Mike Pence was very strong against Crooked Hillary's running mate because he's disciplined. Koala Bear Harris had a total meltdown. She had one good moment where she insulted Sleepy Joe, and then her whole campaign fell apart. And I remember the hot, sweaty chick, Tulsi.
Mm-hmm.
Remember her? I always liked her. She was always sweating like one of those 80s erotic thrillers. You know, she always had like the good tan and the sweaty chest.
Yes.
And the white suit. I'm not going to lie. I may have spanked it to one of Tulsi's debate performances. But she totally got owned by Tulsi, and Tulsi got, 0%. So I think people are going to see that Mike Pence is a strong, disciplined LGBTQ Pence person who will do very strongly.
After the debate, I am going to be joining Vice President Pence for a post-debate show.
No, I know. I gave him
and right.
He came up to me and he took the ball gag out of his mouth and said, "Can I, sir, can I please do a Q&A with the Patreon Patriots?" And, I poured hot wax on his chest and said, "Sure."
Well, I've never met him before. What should I expect from him? Do I have to prepare myself, or is he a very easygoing guy? I know you're very strict when it comes to how we do things here, but as far as Vice President Pence, what should I expect out of him?
You remember the painter Bob Ross?
Yes.
Remember I had like a soothing voice?
Yes.
It's kind of relaxing to be around. Mike Pence has sort of that soothing kind of energy. So I admit it's very different than mine, but he's more of a pastor and I'm more of a businessman. So it's a total, it's a different dynamic. I think that's why we work well together. But it's sort of like like a Bob Ross type, if Bob Ross, whipped himself in prayer.
Okay. I'm very excited to host it with him. And it's going to be at 10:30 on Wednesday for all the Patreon Patriots. First 98 people. We're going to send out the Zoom code to everyone in the afternoon, and it will go up for everyone the next day. Mr. President, I'm going to let you get some rest. I know you just got home from the White House, and you joined us literally like an hour and a half after you just got home, so I really appreciate it. And you sound fantastic. You're breathing honestly like a young track star, like a young marathon runner. You sound fantastic.
No, I hear you came in clear. The total silence. You know, these mics, they're so good. They only pick up sort of when you really want them to pick up what you're saying. They're picking up what you're putting down, as the blacks used to say.
Well, Mr. President, I want to wish you the best health. Get some rest. Quarantine. Please don't do any of these drive-bys anymore. Just get some rest for a few days. Maybe help Vice President Pence prepare for Wednesday, and that's Wednesday night, the Vice President debate. We'll be doing the post-debate show and Q&A with Vice President Pence for all the Patreon Patriots, and that's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The first 98 people will get in the room for the live episode, and then we will put up the episode that night for everyone else. BetOnline.ag, thank you for sponsoring our episode. MPGAPod.com, that is our website. We have limited edition t-shirts up. We have our YouTube page. We're putting clips up, and we have every single episode we've ever done you can listen to on the page. Please keep leaving the ratings and reviews. We really appreciate them, and it helps with the algorithms and puts us up the charts. And at TrumpPod on social media, at JL Colvin, and at JNog. Mr. President, any parting words? I know you must be tired.
No, I'm actually full of strong energy, so not.
Mr. President.
What was I saying? Herman Cain is a good guy, and I hope he's doing well. And, the drugs are having effect none on me, so no effects, no side effects. The drugs are strong and powerful. We're doing... Jeff Epstein. I had played tennis with Jeff Epstein this morning, and it was a powerful time. And we're doing, I would say, very strong, powerful thing. And I think the effects are going great, and we're gonna do things great again. We're gonna have country and powerful strength with. We're gonna defeat Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe, he's a sleepy guy. So he's a Trump. Gonna win because Joe is Biden. We don't like Biden, do we? We don't like Biden.
We don't like him.
With who?
Nope.
You got the steroids, and you gotta just see what Ivanka wants to do. You maybe watch a late night movie with Ivanka, and we'll see what happens because there's a lot of things that are strong and powerful with great election, and it's a good. We gotta just do a thing.
Mr. President, I really appreciate that rundown of the episode.
Hey guys, thank you for listening. As Jay referenced briefly, MPGAPod.com. I know that our T-shirt looks a little like you're supporting Trump. Basically, what you should do is, if you want the T-shirt as a way to support the show, which is obviously what it's doing. It is a very nice T-shirt, comes in 5 different sizes. Think of it as your T-shirt that you'd wear during live episodes, that you'd come see us with, that you'd just get as a memento of the show. It says "Who" in giant. It's a great shirt. I know you don't want it to look like you support Trump. We certainly don't want that, but it's so It's so good, but goofy. And just, or you wear it around the house if you're really nervous, but you think of it as like a $25 donation to this podcast that we've been doing for 2.5 years. But just to encourage you to get those, they're really nice. And that's that for that. I guess that's it. We did all the plugs. Check out, if you haven't yet, check out Fireside Craps The Deuce. Make sure you get The Deuce. my album. It's been submitted for Grammy consideration, and I know I have at least one vote. So hopefully that's enough to put me over the top for a nomination. Probably not. So if you know anybody in the Grammys, or anybody with any votes, maybe make the pitch to them. But also just go get the album. It's really good. That's it. That's all I have to say on that until I find out that it hasn't been nominated. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. Check us out Wednesday, both with the pre-show on Trump the Internet and, of course, the post-show with Patreon. And I'm just so happy that the president is pretending like he's fully recovered. I think that's sending a great message to our country and all the people who've lost loved ones. He's a humongous, awful, gigantic, ridiculous sack of fucking shit. God help us all.